Welcome back to The Explainer. So today we're diving straight into the life of one of the most legendary figures in modern gaming. We're talking, of course, about the complete chronological life of Ezio Auditore da Firenze. Now, if you're a fan of the Assassin's Creed universe, you already know Ezio is completely unique in the source material. I mean, he's literally the only character in franchise history to get his very own dedicated trilogy. But instead of just looking at these games as isolated pieces, today we're going to weave his entire journey into one continuous, absolutely breathtaking narrative. All right, let's anchor ourselves right up front with the sheer scope of this. We are exploring a complete 65-year human lifespan. Born in 1459, passed away in 1524. We aren't just looking at some static, unchanging action hero here. We're actually tracing a deeply human evolution, watching him grow from a carefree, kind of vengeful youth in Renaissance Italy, all the way into an incredibly wise, philosophical elder who literally alters the course of history. Moving on to Section 1, Birth of an Assassin, the quest for vengeance in Renaissance Italy. To really understand the master, we've got to understand the tragedy that forged him, right? Ezio's early years in Florence were spent as this completely carefree noble teenager. He was totally unaware of the secret shadow war being fought right under his nose. That is, until 1476, when his whole world was violently turned upside down. He had to watch in absolute horror as his father and brothers were hanged, betrayed by the Templar Uberto Alberti. Fleeing with his surviving family to his uncle Mario's place in Monteriggioni, he finally discovers his assassin heritage, and from there, it's a decades-long hunt for justice. Teaming up with legendary allies like Leonardo da Vinci and Lorenzo de' Medici, Ezio systematically dismantles the Templar conspiracy across Italy. This all culminates in 1499 when he finally corners Rodrigo Borgia in Rome. But famously, he chooses to spare him, showing us the very first true signs of his profound personal growth.
So that takes us to Section 2, Rebuilding the Brotherhood, from vengeance to leadership in Rome.
Now, sparing Borgia definitely had consequences. Right after returning home, Ezio's peace is totally shattered when Rodrigo's son, Cesare Borgia, attacks Monteriggioni. The destruction of his family's villa and the brutal death of Uncle Mario forces Ezio to mature pretty much overnight. He realizes he can't just be a lone wolf seeking personal revenge anymore. By 1503, he officially steps up as mentor of the Italian Brotherhood. Fleeing to Rome, he realizes he needs an army. He's leading now. He cripples Borgia control over the capital by recruiting everyday citizens to the cause, and he even officially brings his own sister, Claudia, into the assassin order. He's not just fighting, he is building a lasting institution.
What's super fascinating to look at here is the stark contrast in his evolution. Think about it. As a youth, Ezio was entirely driven by this fiery vengeance against the Borgias for his family's death. But once he secures Italy and defeats Cesare, his motivations completely shift. By his middle age, he's driven by a really profound desire to learn, specifically to safeguard the knowledge of his predecessor, Altair, and to secure these incredibly powerful issue artifacts. It is a total philosophical transformation.
Which brings us to Section 3, The Preservation of Knowledge, a Master Assassin's Final Journey. So in his later years, we see Ezio traveling across the world to the crumbling Byzantine Empire and the Ottoman Sultanate in Constantinople. His mission goes from political liberation back in Italy to a deeply personal treasure hunt for Altair's ancient secrets. So what does it actually mean to be an assassin in this stage of Ezio's life? Well, he's not merely a killer in the shadows anymore. He becomes a preserver of knowledge. See, the Templars want power and knowledge so they can control humanity. Therefore, an assassin's ultimate duty is to deny them that opportunity, safeguarding these secrets no matter the personal cost. To pull this off in Constantinople, Ezio has to rely on some crucial new alliances. He works closely with Yusuf Tazim, the very charismatic leader of the Ottoman assassins. He also meets Sofia Sartor, a Venetian bookseller who helps him decipher these cryptic maps. And spoiler alert, she ultimately becomes his wife. Together, they go on this highly dangerous hunt for the 5 Masyaf keys. These are ancient artifacts that are absolutely required to unlock Altair's hidden underground library back at the fortress in Syria. After finally securing the keys, he opens the library only to find Altair's skeleton waiting for him. Discovering that Altair literally locked himself away just to seal the apple of Eden from the rest of the world, Ezio chooses to leave the apple right there. It's a huge moment. He says, "I have lived my life as best I could, not knowing its purpose. I am only a conduit for a message that eludes my understanding."
In this brilliant sequence, he speaks directly across the centuries to Desmond Miles and then officially retires from the Brotherhood, realizing he's seen enough for one lifetime.
All right, Section 4, the chronological playthrough. How to experience the complete timeline. Now, for the hardcore fans watching, experiencing Ezio's life in the exact order he lived it is a massive undertaking. The community has actually mapped out a meticulous, step-by-step chronological roadmap combining the games, DLCs, and short films so you can walk in his footsteps day by day. Step 1 is watching the short film Lineage for his father's backstory. Step 2, play Assassin's Creed 2 and the spin-off Discovery. Step 3 is Brotherhood. Step 4 is Revelations. And finally, Step 5 is watching the animated film Embers. Honestly, though, doing a strict historical timeline requires some dizzying jumps between games and menus, so it is definitely not recommended for beginners. It gets wonderfully complex when you really dig into the exact historical dates. To play it truly chronologically, the community actually weaves Brotherhood's flashback Christina memories backward into the AC2 era, right where they actually happened. You'd literally pause the main game to play the Spain-based Discovery set in the 1490s, and during the Rome 1500s era, you have to meticulously interweave massive DLC side quests like the Copernicus conspiracy and the Da Vinci disappearance right into the middle of the Brotherhood narrative. It is literally a masterclass in timeline mapping. Let's move to our final segment, Section 5, Ezio's Enduring Legacy, the final rest of a mentor. After decades of fighting, leading, and preserving, Ezio finally earns his rest. He settles down in this quiet villa in Tuscany with his wife Sophia and their daughter Flavia. So he retires in 1512 at Masyaf. But 12 years later, in 1524, his peaceful life is suddenly interrupted when the young Chinese assassin Xiao Jun arrives at his door. Ezio reluctantly comes out of retirement one last time to train her, passing on the ways of the Brotherhood so she can go back and lead the fight against the Zhengde Emperor. Just days after sending her on her way, Ezio accompanies his family to the market in Florence. And there, sitting quietly on the bench in the exact same city where his whole journey began, he takes his final breath, passing away peacefully among the very people he swore a lifetime to protect. It's just an incredibly moving end to a 65-year epic of tragedy, perseverance, and ultimately maturity. Ezio Auditore da Firenze evolved from a boy seeking revenge into a true mentor who dedicated his life to preserving knowledge for a future he'd never even get to see. So, as we wrap up this explainer today, I want you to ask yourself, in a world completely filled with endless noise, what knowledge are you safeguarding, and what legacy will you leave behind?